was the word manifested. It was not the curse. It was the verb. It was not the spell. Desire to find our destination. Designated ears appears to those who don't have the opportunity to break down the words and said that it was on the ledge of the knowledge. Makes sense. Ideas they understand for the say that for the way for the it was the said that for the half for the vibe given for the start. It was the word. It was the word. It was the word manifested. It was not the curse. It was the verb. It was not the spell. Desire to find our destination. Designated ears appears to those who don't have the opportunity to break down the words and said that it was on the ledge of the knowledge. Makes sense. Ideas they understand for the say that for the way for the it was the said that for the half for the vibe given for the start for the you to be the helix and to discover your colors of the array. Light off the blue for the mystic mark for the rainbow for the mist all of his mystery for the rivalries in the archery. But it was the heart for the couldn't start the artery for the display to say what you couldn't convey. Comply to I. The second last for the letter for the pertinent for the never the conclusion the misstep for the misstep for the men's interpretation for the preconceived notions and notarizing with it noticing your enticing words for the intimacy for the intimidate for the beat. I'm going to take them away for the strength, and this will be the word for the manifestation of the festivities. Abbreviate the first letter that it was be vulnerable enough for the be able to spell it. Your credits enough for the edit for the enslave for the way for the patterns and stimulate for the simulation for the virtual reality for the threatening over the awakening the reality the days after the way. I can find this and cuts and differences. Illustrate it could be obtuse with the eye. Out of that for the validate for the balance of the way for the impatient who wait for the nurse and for the dinner for the serving for the suicide without the accommodation and compromise. Associated with the access to the nothing, combined economy, the page, the thing, the thing, never ready to have that communicated for which you try to fake to make that the organ, you find it to be modified for the fake. Sitting with the mandate for the patriarchy, the society for the this will be the written word for this who wasn't that the word for the who you find sleeping with for the next day for waking over the morning for the getting through your head for the word for the meditation for hallucination. Hell's gate to the top of the kingdom for the smart. Outside the gates of the haters are going to hate. For the hate for the owner, the finer hates the taste of the waste and not the powder with the waste of the resources for the sort of life of the course of the unaligned capacity taken on the consideration for the considerate. Place that for the enter for the interns and faith and that for the time to waste the snakes and that for the play for the person sight for the scene on the seer. Now for that for the teacher for the near. Ears of the hair. For the breaking the fast. They taking the eat for the bowl for the frosted snowflakes in the school. When they wanted for the beat to actualize that for the present way for the perspective of the object. Ejaculate. Checking you off over the period and later, now for the never to come. The sensitivity for the coming enhancement. The coming of the after impregnated to resign and after the code to resonate for the reaction, discernment, examining, action, justice, demand, hating, knowledge, circumstance. Exclude herself for the county for the now her months of belly dancing deep and family.
And the enemy wouldn't attack you if he wasn't afraid of you. That's why the terrorist is coming after you, because he knows the power of God that has been released. Who am I talking to? Show me who I'm talking to. I'm talking to somebody today.
The dire warning is this: no matter.
So, cut him off. Odds against him. He said, I don't care.
It was the word.
We'll see who's the
word.
God.
Manifested.
The God who answers by fire.
It was not the curse.
It's the real God.
It was the verb. It was not the spell. Desire to find our destination. Designated ears appears to those who don't have the opportunity to break down the words and said that it was on the ledge of the knowledge. Makes sense. Ideas they understand for the say that for the way for the it was the say that for the half for the vibe given for the start for the unity the helix and discover your colors of the array. Light off the blue for the distinct mark for the rainbow for the mist all of his mystery for the rivalries in the archery. It was the heart for the couldn't start the artery for the display to say what you couldn't convey. Comply to I. The second last for the letter for the pregnant for the method of conclusion the misstep for the men's interpretation for the preconceived notions and notarizing with the noticing your enticing words for the intimacy for the intimidate for the weak.
And the enemy can't stop you.
When you take them away from the strength, this is the word for the manifest itself.
And he can stop God from listening
Be vulnerable enough for the people to spell it. Catch. Your credits enough for the edit for the today for the enslaved for the way for the patterns and stimulation for the simulation for the virtual reality for the threatening over the awakening and reality the days after the way. I find this illustrate it could be obtuse with the eye. Out of that for the validate for the balance of the way for the impatient who wait for the nurse and that for the dinner for the serving over the supersized without the combination colonized. Associated with the access to the dictate for the tank for the never ready to have that lubricating for which you find the fake that for the organ you find the genetically modified for the fake. Include the sitting with the mandate for the patriarchal cycle for the society for the disability written word for this who wasn't that the word for the find the secret way for the next back and waking over the morning for the through your head for the word for the medicine for the hallucination.
And the enemy wouldn't attack you
They escape for the power scheme for the spot. Outside the gates of the haters is going to hate. For the hate for the only divine, I hate the distance. The wasted nuts of powder with the waste of the resources with the sort of life of the courses that underline the class. This is taking on this consideration for the considerate. Place that for the intern for the faking, that for the time to waste the space and that for the manipulate for the first insight. This will be the scene, the fear. Now for that for the future of the need. Years of the hair. When they flake for the breaking the fast. They take it
dire
for the fossil
warning
snowflakes
is
and
this.
even in the morning for the
No
belief that you
matter-
actualize that they perpetuate for the perspective of the objects. Ejaculate. Check you off over the papers and later, nap for the never to come. In the sense that they do for the coming and answer the balls. The coming for the after impregnated, the resign and that for the total to resonate for the reasons of restoring reactions, discernment, discriminating, action, justice, demand, hating, acknowledging,
It's the real
circumstance.
God.
She excluded herself from the counting for the now her months of dancing. You can
Pour
find it.
water in it.
The song is done.
Put some wood out there.
Be
And
careful
let's
not
see
to
who answers.
dwell too much on what you want.
God on Mount Carmel.
How to get that for the least of the practice. I think I felt different than if I had that flower. But every time I walked through that flower garden, for the suffering, for the emerging and strong. So most massive characters see it after the scars.
To be strong.
And you got it for the sum of us and looking at the stars. And it was like a hound to be still for the dead center of things. And it's acquired for the middle place where nothing could be done. For the enough of the story that I saw that for the attitude, the growing and list of things and the inadequate. Incapable of doing, becoming an idea. It was an abstract thing now I wanted to be the already had. And listen, really, if I could keep it through the years and I could find my body to communicate how I feel for the harming outside of the show that was going on
You
inside.
said a terrorist.
Whatever's going on inside of my head for the release that for the very concrete, tangible way for the years. Or maybe later for the still using the way for the youth to usually communicate for the carried around the paper for the crumb. They scribbled the letters to this would be the animal when I was deep for the dark cotton for the close of the suffocation, for the intractable sensation.
All that Elijah had done.
After those dark circles under your eye for the weight. It's over the carry to deliver you through the
And
emotions.
with all
Say that out loud, but in the wind of seeing the negative enough for the manipulate for this to be the now and adaptive for the outright.
he had beat the odds
Careful not
by
to
himself.
dwell too much in what you want.
About to be attacked.
Careful not to
because he was weak, not because he was
dwell
stupid.
too much
He
in what
was
you want.
attacked because he was good and he was
How to get
strong
that for the
and
least
he
of the
was
practice. And I think I felt different than if I had that flower. But every time I walked through that flower garden, forever for the suffering, for the emerging and strong. So most massive characters see it after the scars. And the gutter for the summer of us and looking at the stars. And it was like a hound to be still for the dead center of things. And this acquired for the middle place where nothing could be done for the enough of the story that I saw that for the attitude, the growing and listen to being inadequate, capable of doing,
The
becoming an idea.
dire warning
The
is
abstract
this.
thing now I want to do
No
this to be
matter
already had and this and really if I could keep it for the through the years and I could find my body for the communicating how I feel for the harming outside of the show that was going on
Odds
inside.
against him. He said, I don't care.
Whatever's going on inside of my head for the release that for the very concrete, tangible way for the years, or maybe later for the still using the way for the youth to communicate for the carried around the paper for the crumb. They scribbled the letters of this would be the animal when I was confined for the dark cotton for the close of the suffocation, except for the intractable
Put
sensation.
some wood out there. And let's see who answers.
Those dark circles under your eye for the weight.
And he called on
Books over the carrot to deliver you through the emotions. Say that out loud, but in the letter seeing the negative enough for the manipulate for this to be the now and adaptive for the outright and accepted of whatever the gift to learn for the slowly learning you using your voice and then speaking your voice and your words. Find the value of the exactly saying what you want, your mind for the life of the worth of dying, for the cure for the baby give as much more hospital I can find a previously considered.
Anytime you should
Be both self-aware, fundamentally wrong about that nature for the self. Must tell you for the shit you find and everything for you think for the something wrong with you. Yes, you haven't if there ever it isn't for the men for the wrong, but that for the world itself for this and more for the fighting for the enough for the be terrible enough for the believing that something is wrong with me for you can have that for the right for the ability to be ashamed for tears, care, or witness, bear that for the greatness, courage to suffer for the unity for the great. Oh, towards that for the humanity, for the moving irresistibly for the becoming of fatal, for destructive for the enough for the intelligence and the dignity for the well-being of the individuals and the people who whenever therefore without his regard of liberty.
And with all how he
Either by the violent means or on the authority for the theological, for the metaphysical, for the political, for the even the economical idea. Those who follow that path, perfect matrimony for the must defend themselves against that tenacious act for that the ones who try to die to find to devote. Shin for the rev of the truth, the path to make the member for the black lodge and when you're behind to reach the goal for the students is taking that for the bank of it over your demons and just struggle to tether the down for the brain against that set for the gain. What's more terrible than enough for the pain? Painful enough for the heart for the against that heart for the what you can find for the crucified for your emotional attachments. And better that for the signifies. Carnal passion for this is extremely difficult as you can see. It was me. Living in an age when the answers are given to us and we don't have the process of understanding for what you made of for the caught that for the wings and you're gonna have to lift me. 11 art for writing, something precious enough for the who's factor for the factories and who's can find those that equate
Did the puzzles and one is solved, so one to find that for the cure for the sickness, and one discover that for the sickness who would learn to teach you, finally learn how to find the creative teacher journey for owning money, finding money for the rich enough and to be wealthy enough for the exercise in the body. Controls the body for the mind, for the beliefs, and one question for the believing the vows. Whenever then set it up for the questioning for the sometimes you go wondering whether the capital punishment what is meant to be the punisher, no pun intended for the retention dimension that what you could find it when did history repeating the future. Or because we are living in now for the due for the past, and if we didn't get already past it, we can find the future for the now for the speaking doesn't travel. That enough for the fast and travel for the travel, enough for the only day me and body can hear it. Body near me for to reflect those ways and to receive the goodbye for the good day God begave. Ooh, why begotten? The word begave itself. Technically fit as if it wasn't technical, wasn't that play for the distant missing a mistake for just the giving over the deprived, the reciprocity for the time for the decent enough for the wealth I have. You can find that that's the garden, sovereign Adam, Yahweh. Jah, for the letter to silent, the J for the day, for the courting, and sequentially for the numbering as if it was a count to feeling. Anything for the now describing your scribbles to the read described and not to read it like it was a color for the retina to decide. Rather eyes could be used for the chosen to be placed with no wonder for the oxymoronic statement for the kids that want to join me for the wordplay. Or out for the lead. Yesterday for the nights out, for the shut off, for the dark, for the arriving and deprived, for the peoples that dilate rather than in time, for the being tardy, for the insubordinate, for the border enough to eat, for the subject, for the bored, obese, Plato, plate, Socrates, saucers, sip the tea, undeniable, for the flying, for the only articulate, for the time, for the state, the players only orchestrated, for the orchestra, strategic and feelings and frequencies, and coordinate for the artificial intelligence, for the ignorant delays. Related so much I got fired for the even the starter for the drive for the never the clock for the take me off for the job site for the handing me the quarters until the next payday for the wedging an hourly wage and now the phase that for the haze for the Sunday for the enlightenment your inner way for the positive energy recirculated for the to be the calculated arrival hour for the ETA estimated for the stimulant for the patterns for the status of the ring for the circumference for the circumstances and David engaged in the marriage the divorce and that for the force to the statistic for the behavior that's the honey cast out those demons for the
Lifetime in the moment. Lifetime in the moment. You were shared eventually. It was all that intimacy to dissipate for the forest gun, for the battle, for the dragon, for you lost under the desert sun, for the green. Insufferable to nothing else to find itself caught for the set inside of stone, scribbles of madness and etched within that. Slate for the addicts to carry the strength for the endurance. And tempt that strife for the heaven burden of the titan. Crossroads of the cataclysm for the collision, for the astronomy, for the falling of heart. So displayed for the galaxy spinning. Earth and sky colliding for nothing's left inside the wintry for the garden sunset for the dragon to breathe your fire for one more time for the sake of creation to seek yourself for the warmth for the glow deep within. You douse yourself with the soulness of the dirt and cadence and this earth brand with the life once again. You find a passion for the bringing evolution to the sentiments for the beings for the having the hazardly for the frolicking over the virtuous and chaos over your cosmic radiation then let yourself from creation forge into your interconnection. Between your reality for the overseas and the perpetual dream for the someday sound may look at my fingers and remember that the branches of the tree to fill the day for the I could be the touching the sweet mist dancing through the air. Currency making the fears that I held into the fly away for the waves of the tears that come down for the over the Tuesday for you can have it wherever they're not for the recall that I believe it was too much stars not to remember warm staff for the moon being composed and gently calm enough for the somewhere else so you can find the unpromising unfortunate haunting because I'm borderline for the architect for the however you go about it for the this will be the good guys and what you do for the keep trying they don't give up. This really gets to me for the which words to start at that and technically medical terms and that become terms of the abuse and the old cave and enough of which are not for the people that don't think for the history for the technical terms that is different than enough for your IQ. Using that movement, perhaps out of the passion, to do to myself for the postponing of death for the living by suffering for the ever for the risking yourself for the giving by losing for the no one else is useless in this world for the lightening of the burdens of another. Years of love gone, years have been forgotten. In the hatred of a minute for the once for all, for that I know my sorrow for this and often enough for the always in love that and against the reason for the against the promise it against that peace it against the hope for the against the happiness and discouragement that could be. Once for all love, or none for the less because I know for the no for the influence and the straining in me. Devoutly believe that for the be the human perfection with I couldn't love and what the thought for the love forever for the it was only shame for the punch to punish me but wherein I can find a fearless away for the therefore powerful enough to watch your willingness for the snake that I can make steam out of the venom. Habits in the heart. Not for the circumstances, for the having the love of the desert, for what you sit down for the desert, for the sand dune. Sing nothing for the here, nothing for the yet. You can do, you'll find the silence and nothing for the throbbing of the gleam, for the what you can really make a man of yourself, for the truth, for the here. That glass runs out of sand, for this to be decided, for the stick to the love, for the harder to find, I hate the great, a burden to bear. What is fun to be for the thought. What do you have to think about for the happiness and deeply melancholy for the each day? For you can have the waking of a rising and a little birth for the fresh, the morning for the little youth, for the ever going to rest and sleep, for this be the little death for the love. A beauty like a blooming flower in the spring. Light is that for the sun, but rain for the love is fragile. Like that for the first ray for the sunrise, and you find so soundly for the moon. Be full, love smelling like the fragrance of the happiness and a new beginning for the love. Would it be the essence for the spring? It's a blessing and a curse that you on my mind. Love one another for the helping of others to rise to higher levels. Simply pouring out your love for the infectious enough of the great healing and energy for the this is what I am, and I find it pretty enough, and I'm not funny for the never have that for the beautiful smile. The skin looks like a crap. I can find nothing gets big enough to keep this conversation. Never knew what I wanted to say, but I didn't have the talent for the good enough for anything, for the just to be quiet enough for the being here, for the nobody notice if there's anything there anyway, for the time and enough for the somebody to have me for the ever good be going without a limit for the without me I can find myself. Everybody in the world wants the explanation for the acts. For you are the very being you see for the days, and I plagued that for the question of how do you honor for the father's legacy, for the realizing the honor for the legacy, but taking what you learned away for this to live the life to use to find a shape away for the living, for the mind doesn't know for the what it is, and there's just something missing enough for this okay. There's things that I want, but I don't know how to get it for this to be the least to practice for whatever I want and need. Thought I felt different. Flower every time for the thought of you, but I can walk through my garden flower forever. Find it in my heart to say this. This is not a poem, neither a song, neither this about anyone. You can hold that piece of you and say it all. It'll be here from the beginning. Live in the age when the answers are given to us. We don't have the process of the understanding for the answer was made. I caught that from you being here with me. So you got those wings and you're gonna have to live for me with no excuse. And this is not the city for not to be first class in one place and one time, one night. For the art, for the writing is precious enough for the something is you can find secret enough for the conspiracies. Between our written word for the writer, for the reader, for the triangular bond between which identifies their laws of this identification for the reader, for the perhaps that for the eventually the miracle it takes from. Find that between the lines and the subtle messages that they convey. No fur walls that make one feel at home. These are the tiny little letters for the great create in heaven. Inside of your head for the be the friend. We'll come to you for the bruises and sores, and this is to find the choose to heal for the first, and knowing that yours that may be the wounds. Invisible for the library, for the item, for the middle, for the vast for the ignorance. Particular enough and enough for the library, for the very tall. This is surrounding air has been flooded. For thank you for carrying me for the anyone else, and for the holding me for the good. Give me the ability for the wake up, for the see each day, for the daybreak, for the allow me to rest, and after seeing that for the sunset, for the thank you, for the every breath of the feeling of the lungs, for this is all designed to find and sing the song to sing. Place of my feet is taking me for all the things that I can find and say. Stay strong for the not to stain your skin, for the just to be the chastising, for the not to giving up, for the after the years of the abuse of reminding myself of the how to build to survive. I find myself for the done to keep me levitating off of all the love. For this vibrant silence, gracious, recent. Reluctant enough for the justice, for the words, of this to be the art, for the whisper, the sinking in the mind, for the blistering of sounds, and lost in the vortex, and find the tiny significance. Crack the hourglass at this time for the reunion and foundation, for the condensation, for the you can find invisible syllables in another word. Now you can find a hum in every word, and consistency for this be the consistent words that I don't know too well.
Find it in my heart to say this. 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 Find it in my heart.
Find it in my heart to say this. 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 This is not a poem, neither a song, neither this about anyone. You can hold that piece of you and say it all. to be here from the beginning. Live in the age when the answers are given to us. We don't have the process of the understanding for the answer was made. I caught that from you being here with me. So you got those wings and you're gonna have to live for me with no excusing. This is not the city for not to be first class. In one place and one time, one night for the art, for the writing is precious enough for the something is when you can find secret enough for the conspiracies. Between that written word for the writer, for the reader, for the triangular bond between which identifies their loss and this is fun identification for the reader, for the perhaps that for the eventually the miracle that takes from. You can find that between the lines and the subtle messages that they convey. No fur walls that make one feel at home. These are the tiny little letters for the great and create in heaven. Inside of your head for the be the friend. We'll come to you for the bruises and sores and this to find and choose to heal for the first and knowing that yours that may be the wounds. Invisible for the library, for the item, for the middle, for the vaccine, for the ignorance. Particular enough and enough for the library, for the very tall. This is surrounding air has been flooded. For thank you for carrying me for the anyone else and for the holding me from the good. Give me the ability for the wake up, for the see each day, for the daybreak, for the allow me to rest, and after seeing that, for the sunset, for the thank you, for the every breath of the feeling in the lungs, for this is all designed to find and sing the song to sing. Place of my feet is taking me for all the things that I can find to say. Stay strong for the not to stain your skin, for this to be the chastising, for the not to giving up, for the after the years of the abuse of reminding myself of the how to build to survive. I find myself for the done to keep me. Levitating off of all the love, for this vibrant, silence, gracious, recent, reluctant enough for the justice, for the words of this to be the order, for the wisdom, for the sinking in the mind, for the blistering of sounds, and lost in the vortex, and find the time of significance. Crack the hourglass of the time for the reunion and foundation, for the condensation, for the you can find invisible syllables in the word, and now you can find a hum in everywhere, and consistency for this to be the consistent words that I don't know too well.